Well, first and foremost, I haven't done this in quite a long time. I have been busy building a big platform for people. I got tired of being deleted on YouTube and other platforms, so we bought our way into Amazon Fire, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, uh, LG TV, Samsung TV is going to turn off my phone now. And we've been building HISAdvocates TV on those platforms. So we are actually worldwide as of next week. We're going to be turning on our live feature to where when we go live, we're going to go out throughout the world. You will find us on your phone. So download the app, HISAdvocates TV. We're trying to get rid of the other one. We're working that out, but HISAdvocates and HISAdvocates TV. HISAdvocates we shut down. So download HISAdvocates TV app on your Android or your iPhone. That's going to be a direct live link to our network channel brand on all those networks. If you're at home and you want to see a big face and cat fur on my shirt, go to Roku, Amazon, Fire, Android, Apple, LG, Samsung, and look for the app or the channel HISAdvocates. They list it differently in a lot of different places. And look for, you spell out HISAdvocates, 2 words on some platforms, 1 word on another. Just work on it until you find it. Add us to your favorites. And if you're watching us on YouTube, obviously like, subscribe, follow, and make sure you forward this out to your friends and family. Today, I got a really special treat. This is a retired lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. Her name is Sandra Miarecki. I know I just screwed that up. We're going to bring her on in just a minute because we were just chatting about personal things between us, and it just hit me. This woman knows a lot on the inside, as she was in the United States Air Force. And post that, she did her work to get her doctorate and went back to teach. And so I'm going to bring her on and let her kind of explain herself and what she's done. Welcome, Sandy. How are you doing today?
Good. You practiced my name before we even got on. And
I know, but it blanked on me right before I said it. And I started looking for it on my screen, and I'm like, oh, no, I screwed it up. Go ahead and repeat it.
That's all right. I'm Sandra Miarecki.
Miarecki.
And, yep, you got it. And so just for a brief, where do I come from kind of thing. Born and raised in Chicago, deep Polish roots. Ended up wanting to be an astronaut ever since I can remember. Ended up joining the Air Force from ROTC, University of Illinois. Went to, finished the ROTC, also finished my degree in astrophysics. Then joined the military, became a pilot, then a test pilot, and an instructor pilot while I was in the Air Force. I was injured by a vaccine around 1992 timeframe, and then every vaccine I got after that ended up being another damage point. So barely made it to 20 years, retired. That wasn't my plan. I wanted to be a general and all that stuff. Didn't quite make the astronaut thing, but really had a good career. Had to get a non-flying job, so I went back to school, went to Berkeley and got my PhD in particle physics, and then got hired at the Air Force Academy as a physics instructor in Colorado. Did that for many years, and then COVID came and totally messed everything up. I saw a light switch flipped in at the Air Force Academy, and people who were normal law-abiding, oath-keeping military and civilians all of a sudden became criminals, for lack of a better word. I mean, committing crimes, they haven't been convicted yet, but I'm watching them break federal laws, their oaths to the Constitution, pretty much everything, while they started to push mandates on everybody. So I ended up fighting back as best as I could, trying to protect the cadets and the students. And they were asking me for help in filing religious exemptions. So none of them actually ended up working out because, once again, the military continued to violate their oaths to the Constitution and the God-given rights of these students, and didn't allow a single one. So, but we did our damage, at the Pentagon level by pretty much bringing their whole operation to a standstill, because they weren't anticipating having something like 300,000, letters of exemption.
Wow.
I was not responsible for all of those. I will just say that.
Wow.
But I was responsible for probably several hundred in helping many different people. In fact, I was helping them around the world because, kind of like the shampoo commercial from the 70s, they'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends. And I'm hearing from people and they say, oh, Joe Schmo told me about you. It's like, well, I don't know Joe Schmo, so I have no idea how many times it got passed on. But so I ended up getting fired because they told me that I'm not allowed to tell the students what their rights are. Okay.
You're what?
Yeah.
Was that the words they used, really?
No, they said that I was not allowed to counsel or advise students about COVID. Well, telling them their rights is not advising or counseling. So there's where the disagreement occurred. And so I said, okay, well, if the chain of command is supposed to be doing this, then I will step back and I will see what the students tell me when they go to their chain of command. They come back and they go, ma'am, they're still only telling me that I have to either get the shot or get out. So, okay, I'm back in again. So religious exemptions, appeals when they were denied, appeals to the denials. It was just a mess. But anyway,
right.
In the end, they had to lie about me. The people trying to fire me, because everything that I was saying was true.
Yeah.
Even though they were saying, no, it's not. Well, so in the end, they had to lie and say, well, Sandy said this and Sandy said that, and they were trying to paint me as a domestic terrorist. And then they could fire me. Yeah, then they could fire me for conduct unbecoming.
Right. So, I mean, you served a lifetime in the military. You served them in a civilian capacity post-military. Mm-hmm. And you end up getting terminated because you're helping people with their God-given unalienable rights to something that had no law in supporting it. Mm-hmm. Do you mind if we go straight to the conspiracies? Because you talked about a couple of things, and you brought up something that, there's two conspiracies out there, and I will not form an opinion for people on this network on neither one of these conspiracies. I will tell you that one of them I've pretty much got my mind wrapped around as believing there's some validity behind some of the stuff that is being said. Like the word NASA in Hebrew means liar or lies. I've seen enough video content production level. I understand what Photoshop looks like. I understand these things. And I know for a fact that they are staging being in space. I know that the moon landing, in a lot of people's opinion, was faked. And the only question you got to ask was, who was filming Neil Armstrong coming down onto the lunar surface? And then you got Buzz Aldrin over and over all throughout the internet saying we never went to the moon. Mm-hmm. What is your opinion, first and foremost, just about that thought of whether we actually made it to the moon?
So I can only speculate based upon evidence, interviews, things that I've seen as to what probably happened. And I would assume that they sent up the unmanned space probes with all the equipment on it to register temperature and radiation and whatever. And when they got outside the atmosphere of our planet, they found radiation off the scale. That's a conjecture. I just think that that's probably what it was. and that there was no way we would ever send human beings outside the atmosphere. But we had the space race going on and the whole, capitalism versus communism and this whole thing, right? So Stanley Kubrick actually admitted a month before he died,
right,
that he was in charge of filming all of that.
Right.
And there are some snippets of video that have slid out onto the internet that show, apparently, the outtakes. Yeah, the outtakes. So essentially, they're running the film, and then they just cut the film there, and then that piece made it into this video. And it was like the lighting falling over, into the set. So apparently they did this inside a completely dark hangar,
right,
and brought in the dirt from somewhere and just made it look like the moon. So
my cat, I'm sorry, my cat gets stimulated, and when she's ready, she'll try and strike and bite me. And so I have to be ready for the strike. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, look at all that cat hair.
Yeah, right.
I was actually going to say, look at all that cat hair when the cat was actually on you. A funny, So so I don't think we went. It's and then there's the joke, not a space agency for NASA, is what it stands for. That's my
okay. All right. So you just hit on all the important points, and basically you said it's not a conspiracy theory. It sounded to me like there's a lot of factual information, like firsthand witness to the film creation, who put it in every post film that he created, showing the pictures of the landing on the different elements of the other movies, letting everybody know the truth. It's which leads you to the next conspiracy theory of theories, that we are in a dome and the earth is flat. And there's a lot of people that say there's a lot of credence to that thought.
Mm-hmm.
What take, because I've had conversations with a lot of pilots that flew around the world, and I've heard both. I've heard pilots say the earth is flat, and I've heard pilots say that the earth is definitely round. What is your take?
So I call myself a pure scientist, which means that you could tell me there are purple monkeys flying out of my butt right now, and I would have to say, okay, let me see your evidence. I'm not going to say, no, you're crazy. That's what fact checkers do, right? The so-called fact checkers. So I want to see and hear the evidence. So I'm part of a couple different chats where there's a big debate on there, flat, round, which earth is it? And being a physicist means that I've got a perspective that 99% of the people on the planet don't have. When I have observations, I'm trying to explain them in some way, right? And if I can find one theory or hypothesis that explains all this whole collection of observations, then that seems to be pretty true to me. Now, might not be. I can only be 99% sure, or 98 or 90%, whatever the number is. So all the things that have to be explained by, what is it, flat or round? Lunar eclipses, solar eclipses. Why do hurricanes spin the opposite in the southern hemisphere versus the northern hemisphere? Why do we have seasons? Why is the earth, why does the sun wander in the sky? Why does the sun not set in Antarctica and the Arctic, depending upon the time of year? What else? Why are there tides? I could go on and on, right? So that has to be able to be explained by whatever theory there is. Gravity. In the flat earth, there is no gravity. And so I ask the question, okay, what is the alternative explanation? And they say density. And I go, but density requires a gradient, which means something causes one part of space to be different from another part of space, such that more dense things want to sink and less dense things want to float. And I didn't get an answer. What is causing that gradient to make, the surface of the Earth be more dense or less dense, however that works, and
Right.
they couldn't answer me. And I'm thinking through, okay, what could possibly, what will be? It's like gravity. Gravity causes the gradient, So I can't explain the basic principles of a flat Earth without using round Earth principles. So I'm, what are the
You're
possibilities?
torn.
Yeah. So what are the possibilities that we're on a flat Earth? A probability, I give it 1%, because I have flown. Not completely around the Earth, but enough where if I fly east, the sun goes rapidly over the top of the airplane and goes behind me. If I fly west, I'm flying into the dang sun the whole time.
I lost your audio. Can you hear me?
I wonder why you lost me. Hold on, let me see. Let me try.
Kristen, can you hear her? Wire me right now if you can.
Okay, I just muted and unmuted. Can you hear me?
For some reason, I cannot hear. Let me do a pause on this. So we had an interruption, sound interruption, where I couldn't hear you anymore. And you were let's go back to you were at 1% of belief that the Earth is flat. Mm-hmm. And you were finishing up on some, and I'll yield to you so that you can finish up on whatever your thoughts were.
Okay, so like I was saying, I kind of give a percentage probability of something being true, and I can't say 0 on a flat Earth, because there might be some evidence that I'm not aware of that that we're living under a dome and it's a flat Earth and all this stuff that I'm not aware of. So I have to keep that 1% open. But everything else that I just listed, equinoxes, eclipses, spinning storms, why did the wind always blows west to east, and all this other stuff. And I have no problem with the fact that the Earth is spinning at a ginormous speed and we don't fly off because of gravity. It's all these things, when you put them all together, the theory of a round Earth, and that we're going around the sun, and the sun is going around the galaxy, and the galaxies going around all the other galaxies. And it's actually quite universal. Like, you can take that one theory and you can apply it to almost everything else that we see. And the only time you really get into trouble is when you start getting into like the Einstein realm, right? The super fast speed of light-ish kind of speeds, where the Newtonian physics, Newton, starts to break down. So
let me ask you this. I appreciate the answer. When I look at the moon to this day, mm-hmm. I have never seen the other side of the moon. And right. I just can't get my mind wrapped around how we're spinning, mm-hmm. and the moon is going around us, but not spinning, mm-hmm. and how it's facing the Earth, flying through on a gravitational pull, never changing its face, never changing its position to the Earth. I don't understand that. And even more than that, there's just how the moon is tied to the Earth in so many different geometric and elements of how they design the pyramids and how they design and everything is working with the shape, the size, circumference, and from a geometry standpoint to the moon. I can't even do it justice, but if anybody wants to look into that, it's a Hidden Things in Plain Sight on YouTube. It's an 18 video part. People just really need to go and look at it. But nevertheless, let's move on, because what's that?
Can I correct you?
Yeah, please.
So we actually do see more than 50% of the surface of the moon. And the reason is, if you were to, so you've got the moon going around the sun like this, right? So now if you turn the whole thing and you look down on it, so the Earth is in the middle and then the moon's kind of going around like this, right? And so you can see down onto the pole, kind of like. The orbit of the moon is not exactly circular. In fact, nothing is exactly circular.
Isn't the moon going around the Earth?
Well, we're actually both going around our center of mass. So, and the way to think about that is, imagine if you have two stars with the exact same mass, and we do have these binary stars, right? So it's like Jupiter would have been a star if it would have been 10 times more massive. It just barely missed out. And then we would have kind of like the Tatooine, double sunset every night from Star Wars. So the orbits of all of the planets and even anything is an ellipse, so some sort of an oval. So if you had these two exactly massed stars, well, there's nothing nailing down the one star and then the other one goes around. So they actually co-orbit around their center of mass. So they actually both orbit this center that's right between them. That's kind of like there's like a rod between them and it just keeps the same distance all the time. And you can go on Wikipedia or whatever, and you can see some really cool little animations that'll explain that. And so if you did Wikipedia center of mass, and it'll pop up and you'll see what I'm talking about. So the moon is not in an exactly circular orbit. So that means that, and what this is called is tidal lock. So eventually all long-term objects probably would slow down enough such that the one face, the one face is always facing the planet. And so what that means is if I look down from the top, it is still rotating. But if it takes 28 days to go around the Earth, it takes 28 days to spin once. It's just really slow. And so the one face that's mostly facing the Earth at all times is actually kind of like the most dense part, because no planet is exactly, density consistent. There's going to be some weirdness to the one side versus the other. And so that's the side that's got landlocked to us. But because it's not a circular orbit, that means that at some point it's going to actually go faster in its orbit, and then sometimes it's going to go slower. So we'll actually get to peak around the limb of the one side and around the limb of the other side, and we'll actually see something like 54% of the moon's surface because of that. But for just us.
So for the record, you corrected me on 3%. I love a detailed girl.
We never see any other side, but we do see.
Well, okay, 3%. Okay, thank you.
I don't know what the exact number is, but it's something.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect.
The other thing you said was that the moon never spins, but it does. It just, the spin, the revolution and the rotation are almost exactly the same. I'll just say exactly the same is close enough.
Okay, so that's NASA quality stuff right there. I don't, I'm going to step back on that one. All right, last big conspiracy, Antarctica. What's the purpose of keeping people out of Antarctica?
Well, what's bizarre is people aren't kept out of Antarctica. I've been to Antarctica.
I agree with that. I actually agree with that, but we're being told. Well, there is a now past general that we've all heard of that brought a battalion down there and got. He said he saw UFOs, got into a fight with them, got his butt kicked, and went home. And this is back in the early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the rumor mill is that was the German technology that was brought forward by them having a contractual relationship with extraterrestrials. That's the rumor. There's also rumors of deep underground bases that the Germans under the ice. And there's also rumors that there's a wall that we can go past and we will be in like a paradise kind of an area, luscious grass, green, and this, that, and the other. And they didn't really want all the people to go down there. Now I've seen I can't verify anything I just said other than I read Admiral Byrd's book.
Mm-hmm.
Now on that note, that's a retired, at that time that he wrote the book, retired admiral, now passed. And he was decorated and celebrated. And so for him to say these kinds of things in his post writings, kind of blows my mind. So your thoughts on any of that stuff, and because remember on Google Earth, which they've now taken away, you were able to see like a 2 or 3 open, like a hole in the ground large enough 2 miles, and then another one was like a mile wide where you can just fly straight into the earth. Have you ever seen those?
No.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So the one theory that I'm aware of is that if we are on a flat earth under a dome, then the dome has to end somewhere. And the flat earth people say it ends in Antarctica.
Correct.
And if you try to go past a certain point, you're going to pretty much run into what the Truman Show, where he went up and he touched the sky, right? Because there was the sound stage. It ended, right? And so that's what people claim. And that's why people are not allowed to be in Antarctica. But there is an Air Force base, for lack of a better term, in McMurdo Sound. And there's the Antarctic South Pole Station, Amundsen Scott Station. And I know people personally who have been there. And when I ask them questions about it, it's not like they're, looking like, oh, I can't talk about this or something like that. It's like, they're always so open and, yeah, I went, it was really cool. Ha ha. And there's people that winter over there. And I have met several of those people as well. Again, no like evasion or, I can't talk about it or anything like that. You can go there, and I think on YouTube, I'm not sure. Oh, and I think it might be on the Ice Cube website. Now, there's another controversy that's just come up recently. Is one of the firefighters came up and said that in his extensive scientific knowledge as a firefighter, that the Ice Cube experiment in the South Pole ice is actually a transmitter that can cause earthquakes. We won't go there, but I will at least bring that up as something that I saw and I went, what?
Well, yeah, anyway. that along with the HAARP array systems, and that is not a conspiracy theory.
No, HAARP is not.
HAARP is not. But to cause weather disruption, to cause earthquakes, then definitely is not a conspiracy. I know people will still say it is, but in my opinion, it's not. Okay, so we originally
let me go back to Antarctica. So let me just fill in a couple of things. So when I went there,
try to finish quickly because we got a lot of stuff I want to cover. Go ahead.
I can always come back.
No, that's true, but let's do this.
Okay, so quickly. So I wanted to get my final continents, and I've been on all 7 continents. And so I took a cruise from southern South America across the Drake Passage into Antarctica. Was I outside the whole time? Did I watch the whole? No, I didn't. But, what did the sun do? Well, it was the summer down there, which was December, January. And the sun was almost up the whole time, just like you would assume because of the way the earth is tilted and it's round and, so all of that just totally agreed. I talked to the ship's crew. And they tell me about their adventures and what they've done and where they've been around. And I talked to my friends who have been to McMurdo, the base on the coast, and also Antarctic Station. And they had skiers who get dropped off on the coast and cross-country ski to the South Pole. If any of this alien stuff were true, would people just be allowed to do that? Sailboats, are allowed to go around and sail around.
Yeah, I can't speculate to any of this because I don't have my hands on it at all.
And then there's the pictures of the, because they are in radio communications, because if somebody gets in trouble on one of the ski teams, they, have to, call for help or whatever. And so that's only during the summer, again, when it's warm. It's only minus 50. And it's actually less. It's better than that. But
okay.
It's like, I'd say like 0, 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's very comfortable.
And so they're outside working. They're digging the holes to put the sensors in the ground for the ice cube experiment. They're building the buildings. They're bringing in the fuel for the overwinter, and it gets cold. It's like it's warm in the summer and it's cold in the winter. Flat Earth. I don't know how else to explain that, but
right.
So most of the fuel is actually brought in overland by snowmobile convoy. So they will bring the fuel in barrels or whatever, and then they'll put it on the pallets, and they'll get it on the skis, and they'll put it behind the snowmobiles, and it'll go overland to get to the South Pole. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, it just, everything that I've heard and seen myself agrees with the round Earth theory. And I don't see anything about an ice wall or, the Earth ending or anything like that.
Well, good. That settles that. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can keep going down in speculation on that concept, and there's a lot of just because some guys are cross country going to the South Pole doesn't mean necessarily that there isn't something nefarious down there. I don't know why there's a need for a multinational treaty. I don't know why there's so much speculation as to, and I've seen the pictures, and obviously pictures and video can be constructed now at a whim by AI, and what used to be evidence in video and pictures now is not going to be evidence anymore because of AI.
Yeah.
So on that note,
all I can tell you is what I saw does not support anything other than ordinary stuff going on down there. Could there be weird stuff? Absolutely. I can't rule that out because I only saw this one little piece. And the skiers probably have this one path that they always take because it's the easiest. You don't have to go up and down over a mountain, et cetera.
It's the same with going to the top of the Himalayas and, Everest and all that.
Yeah.
Question for you. What is your position on state citizenship?
So the current 13th Amendment to our Constitution is fraudulent. And it hijacked our state citizenship with the big C, because the state should have priority over country citizenship according to our Constitution. That was what we were given. When they declared everyone to be a U.S. citizen, small c, that really screwed us. It essentially usurped the state citizenship and flipped it. So I'm an Illinois citizen of, the state, not all capital state, not all capital Illinois, because that's the corporation that's currently in charge. But since I was born in Chicago from Illinois, I'm an Illinois citizen, capital C. And because Illinois is in the United States, then I am also an American citizen, little c. It's the way
Can I make one correction?
Go ahead.
Illinois is not in the United States. It's in the United States of America. The United States is in the District of Columbia, just from a lawful reference.
All United States capital, I agree.
Right. And then just as a reference point, in my opinion, we weren't usurped. We were kind of, I would agree, yes, that's a proper statement. I think the way that they painted it was there was no other way to give freedom to all race, color, creed. And there's some interpretation of that 14th Amendment, which obviously we both know wasn't ratified.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some interpretation that the first portion of it is for the state citizen, the second portion and beyond is for the United States citizen, and that there's a choice. And nevertheless, they had to force that element all the way up until 1935 and beyond, but had to force that element of you eventually getting a job with the United States, becoming a United States employee with the Social Security, which is an employment ID number, and on and on and on. But so you believe
right,
in
I got
states?
the amendments wrong, right? Because 13th Amendment freed the slaves.
No,
and
13th was fraudulent too. 13th was fraudulent too. That's where
14 was where everyone
originally made it so that we just both disappeared. Okay, you're back. The 13th was where they didn't want esquires to be have political.
That was the original 13th. That was
correct.
Criminally removed.
Correct. And
I've actually done a full video on that subject.
Yeah,
with,
I actually got the certified original 13th Amendment. I even got the original 14th. Okay, so you are a firm believer in state citizenship.
Yes.
Okay. Next question.
Because I am a state citizen.
You are.
You helped me do that.
I know that. Thank you. I know that to be a fact. Okay, so Republic. The element of Republic to me it's a large concept. Without state citizens to be involved in it becomes moot.
Yeah.
So the Republic was in fact dismantled in 1861-ish through 1867-8 and was re-inhabited in 2010, 11, 12-ish. And of which both you and I, I'm saying this proudly for me, are a part of it. And I got to see and was a big part of the actual re-inhabitation. I've seen all the players when way back in the day in 08, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's 20,000 people strong nationwide that were very much an active part of it. And it was also very much, Sandy, infiltrated, which taught me a lot about how the federal government and the United States court does not honor their oath, does not want to let go of their stranglehold on the people, and are completely bass-ackwards on everything that they do in relation to their job function and how it's to be carried forward. And so that element of Republic is real, it exists, and it needs people that are state citizens that are not double-minded, because if you're a U.S. citizen stepping into a position in Republic, you can't. If you are a U.S. citizen trying to come into Republic with contracts, you're not double-minded. You're just an angry U.S. citizen. You're really not truly in Republic. Even if you made your allegiance to it, you still are operating in a double-minded capacity where you have allegiance to the United States as an employee through your driver's social and all those things. And so when I realized this, I stepped out, started HISAdvocates, and did all that thing. And but I'm very much encouraged by what we did, and will never let that go. I will stand firm with that small, albeit, body of people, in the hopes that one day the military does their job and comes to all of our doors and knocks on them and says, "We need you to step in. There's been a coup. We took them out legally, lawfully, and we need you guys to step in." Holy smokes. I've always known something like that was going to happen. Question is when and how does that look? How do you feel about all that?
So I would not use the word coup, because the so-called government that's in place right now isn't. I say that they kidnapped our government in 1861-ish. And that was when, and I've done a video on this, if anyone wants to look up on Rumble, How to Save America, a Re-Inhabited Republic. Search on that and you'll find it. 38 minutes. And essentially I did like stick figures to explain to people what happened. And so we had, the president, vice president, Congress, Supreme Court and all that. And when the states left the Union, which technically they were allowed to do, although this perpetual union kind of throws things off a little bit when it's in our documents, that perpetual meaning you don't leave. So there's some debate there. But anyway, when Lincoln was faced with a dilemma because he considered the seats still filled, that the states were not allowed to leave Congress. And so there was no way that they could get a majority vote on things. And so what he did was essentially kind of declared an emergency and said, all right, we're going to temporarily become this like more corporate government. And he took all those seats that were in the Republic and then just moved them over into the corporation. And the Republic, sorry, I'm getting a mirror imaged over here. The Republic over here, these seats were just empty. They were not deleted. They were only abandoned when they made the corporation. And so that's how the government has been operating ever since. And then 1871, the Act of 1871 that incorporated Washington, D.C., and then forced all the states to incorporate as well, because they says, well, if you want to get any money from the federal government, since we're a corporation, you have to be one too. And the states did that to the counties and all the way down. And so that's how every single level of our government was kidnapped.
Were you in the active military when you discovered this?
No, this was only in the last 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the main issue now is, well, and then, so now the Republic, was it still there? Was the abandoned Republic still there? Did they delete it? And so that's where the patriots that you're talking about that are in the Republic for the United States of America did their homework, looked through all the founding documents and found that it had not been deleted. And so the Republic was still there, just empty seats. And that's when they reseated it. They got enough people in each state to then hold elections and or appointments as needed to have the 5 minimum seats to reseat the Republic, which was a governor, a judge, 2 senators, and a House of Representatives person. So you get those 5 people, you are now a resettled state, re-inhabited.
On the federal level.
On the federal level, that's correct.
Correct. Which is a word I don't like. I
know. And then national level maybe would be a better word.
There you go.
And then from there, you're supposed to go to then the county level, and, it should have trickled down from there. And in fact, in the 2012-ish timeframe, the Republic was so popular that during a trial of one of our individuals, one of the pieces of evidence that came forward was that there were 22 million people who were somehow involved with the Republic. And this was during the Obama administration. So, of course, they got the full brunt of it because Obama, and as being the CEO of the corporation, couldn't have the actual Republic come back because they were the lawful government. Legal being corporate, lawful being constitutional. And so that is what he feared the most. And especially when the Republic started to notify the corporate individuals and say, okay, the Republic's back again.
That's when that's when it became real. That's when the feds put the Republic as the number 1 domestic terrorist threat, which to me was absurd. When you have ISIS and all these invading armies, and you have the gangs.
It was the biggest threat to the corporation.
And that's what they started advertising to all local law enforcement. If anybody says anything like this, they're a sovereign citizen. And I'm like thinking to myself, those scumbags. I mean, like, why would they do that? This is the greatest thing for their kids and their kids' kids. Why would you obey an unlawful order?
Right.
Why don't you check into it and ask? And here's the nut of it. When a lot of and I'm speaking really to the agents agents and agencies out there that hear this stuff in the future. If there wasn't a thing called subject matter jurisdiction in a court, why does every single case that, whether state or fed, that they have to prove, if they just had automatic jurisdiction, if it was just blanketed, why do they need to fill out and document on each and every single person where they've got the subject matter jurisdiction?
Right.
If it's
That's
just
maritime. That's maritime law.
Yeah.
And that's what we've all been tricked into thinking is real law. And so when you go to common law, there's only 3 laws. Don't hurt anybody. Don't hurt anybody's property. And don't deny anyone their God-given rights. Violate any of those 3, and then you go to common law court, and it's usually settled within an hour.
So
everything else is garbage. So
Sandy, you are a conspiracy factualist, and you didn't go for the dome, you didn't go for the wall, you didn't go for a lot of the speculations, because you are a methodical thinker, you're a scientist, physicist, you're a smart lady. What conspiracy fact blew your mind in the last few years that you've come to learn as a theory that became a fact for you?
I would say there's 3.
3? God, that's quick.
The JFK assassination, which I always knew something was wrong because a bullet does not do a U-turn inside of someone's cranium. And then I saw it was a documentary.
The CIA released it that it was CIA involvement. Tucker Carlson did. Okay, right. Next one.
So I highly recommend a video. I believe it's on Rumble. JFK to 9/11. It's all a rich man's trick or something like that. And I believe it's based on a book. And so you will see the actual videos that prove the theory that's in, all the theories that are in this thing. 9/11. When I found out what happened with that.
What convinced you otherwise?
I needed to hurt something.
Me too. What convinced you otherwise? Like, what was your evidence?
Building 7, you cannot explain any other way.
Nobody can. So, what about Dr. Judy Wood? Have you ever heard of her?
Yes. And so, and that's more recent for me. That's like within the last 6 months. But the thing that you cannot dispute, no way you look at it, is I believe it was Aussie. It might have been Aussie or UK. I can't remember. I thought it was Australia. Reporter who is like some distance away from the smoking towers and says, and Building 7 has just collapsed.
Right.
And behind her, you can still see Building 7 standing.
Well, here's the thing about Building 7, just for the record for everybody. Number one, it was on fire, but it wasn't engulfed in flames. And there's the way that it was on fire. Yeah, and then the owner of the 3 buildings, Larry Silverstein, said live, we had to pull it, and it was a demolition term. The fire departments all around New York are probably all retired now, but they formed a union called Firefighters for Truth about 9/11. Over 5,000 of them strong. What they've heard, what they saw, and how they were all ordered to go into the building right before it collapsed just to cover up the evidence or whatever. The way that it was burned, how the building was locked down for 2 weeks, how George Bush's cousin was the security over the building, how the stock in United Airlines was shorted the day before, how there was $2 billion in bonds taken out with Lloyd's of London.
That was Mark Armstrong.
Yeah, just
Mark
there's
Armstrong.
So much evidence to a plot.
Mm-hmm.
And now my understanding was Mossad. What? Yeah.
So
okay, what's your third one?
NASA, the moon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're that strong in what you've seen now that you believe that it's been a hoax.
Well, on top of all of that, I know somebody who was in NASA at the time and had insider information. And I said, I know you can't answer this question, but I'm going to ask it. And I said, I made a statement. I said, the moon landing was fake. And I can't tell you what his answer was, but it was confirmation.
Okay.
So I can't get any better than an insider telling me, not within so many words, but confirming what I had just said. So now we've got Buzz Aldrin, who makes the funniest faces whenever someone says, walked on the moon. Stanley Kubrick's interview, which you can find online about, we faked the moon landing. My estimation from a physics point of view that the radiation is too strong to send anything human or live outside of our atmosphere. It's a sneaking suspicion just because of how much I was using cosmic rays as part of my PhD research. I'm not an expert in that, but knowing what I know and how much was getting through the atmosphere, I'm going, well, then how much is outside the atmosphere if that much is getting through? So that kind of, it's all these little tiny bubbles with question marks, and you're like, I wonder how to answer that. And then you just kind of save these, right? You put them in a little pile, and then you hear something and you go, let me take those back out again. What the heck? And then you start coming up with, the theory or the whatever that kind of connects all the dots. It's kind of like I watch an incredible amount of intel. I weight everything by, how credible is the person who's reporting it, where the source is and all that. And I just allow my brain to kind of do a little computer thing. And a couple of years ago, almost, it was January of 21, I think. No, January 22. My brain just kind of spit out this conclusion that said, Trump is running Biden. And I went, what? My brain spit this out and I went, what? And then I started to look at it. I started to pull out all the little question marks again. And I'm going, oh my God. Could that be true? Because this actor that's playing Biden, we know it's not the real guy. And there's probably at least two of them that are actual body face doubles. And if anyone wants to see who they think they are, go watch The Greatest Show on Earth. That just came out a couple of months ago. It's on Rumble as well. The Greatest Show on Earth. It's only an hour and a half. It's worth your time. And it's Derek Johnson and I think Dinesh D'Souza, and they're putting all these pieces together. Pretty credible theory. And so when you see just how absolutely insane the things that the current Biden administration are doing, oh, we're never going to have a mandate. Oh, we're going to have mandates. Oh, we'll never have you take the shots. Oh, we're going to have you take the shots. We're never going to attack Syria. Okay, now we're going to attack, or whatever. It's just like.
So if Trump's running Biden, he's doing a horrible job, right?
No, he's doing a great job, because what is the number one thing that we need to do in this country if we're going to save it?
Wake people up.
And how do you wake them up? Because if Trump would have done what he wanted to do, again, this is Sandy speculation, January of 2021, we would have had a 50-50 civil war for the most part. We would have had people who absolutely believed in the Biden administration, and we had people who absolutely believed in the Trump administration. And then there's a lot of people who just don't care, or in between, or whatever, and they would have had to been, pick a side. But now, by showing this total, unbelievably stupid government that we have, how insane it really is. and how they can just, ignore the Constitution, and they're doing it on purpose to get people who are on both sides to go, that ain't right. And that's the crack, right? The crack in the dam. And then something else happens. And then there's another crack in the dam. And then something else and something else. And it just, eventually you get these people to now where Biden has at most an 8.5% approval rating.
On mainstream. That's mainstream. That's not.
That's why I said at most.
Yeah. And they're not even trying to cover that up anymore. They're not even trying to lie about it, which means there's something big about to happen, in my opinion, too. Mm-hmm. And which is why they're talking about and releasing that there will be attacks. There will be Hezbollah attacks. There will be this, that, and the other. And I often wonder, what would I do if I saw those guys coming down my street to kind of take over the neighborhood? I'm like, holy crap, I'd go to war. Mm-hmm. And it's a sad.
Hopefully you've got a way to go to your, hey neighbors, grab your weapons.
Yeah, I got to think that through. I have some guys in the neighborhood. We meet up about once every 2 or 3 months, and I'm going to get them on a text list. Grab everything you have and head over to. Yeah.
A signal chat, a Telegram chat, a something where you don't touch that channel. And that's only for, hey, John Jones at the end of the street's being FBI raided. Let's all go surround them. Peacefully.
I was about to say, you better be careful with that.
Peacefully.
All right. So we barely touched, and we're coming up on an hour. I got to formally ask, do you want to come back and do another interview?
I'd be happy to.
Because we barely touched our intention on this interview, but we got a lot of good content, in my opinion, out there to settle some things for some people. Doesn't make it absolute anyway. One last thing, the NASA Tether project. Have you heard of that?
Are you talking about the balloons?
No, it was like a way to power. It was a 10-mile long way to power. It would pick up energy in the atmosphere and they were going to use this stick, 10-mile long stick floating out in the atmosphere to power the station, and it broke off and it floated out, and then all these unidentified flying objects started going around it and looking at it, like it almost looked like it was in a fishbowl. And it could have been easily faked, but it was good production with NASA in the background, not confirming anything, but talking to the people in the station. Are you looking at what we're looking at? Click. So if you get a chance, watch that. But I'm
not familiar with that, other than the concept of using a balloon, a very strong one that's essentially keeping something tethered to the ground, and it's collecting the however you want to say it, the energy of the atmosphere, the energy of space. If you've ever heard of oh my gosh, I just forgot the term. It's not electro gardening, but it's something like that. It's where you're pulling the electromagnetic energy from the air and channeling it into the dirt to help your plants be mega productive. And it depends on how, the type of wood, and you spin it left, you spin it right, the coils, and then the whole apparatus, north, south, or east, west. And you can see all kinds of YouTube videos on that. And I've been actually looking into that.
It works. I'm telling you, I put them in the ground with my plants, and my plants doubled their size in about 4 months. That works.
I can see.
We just broke that stick. I got them on Amazon, for the record.
Yeah.
So one last question.
So it's possible. I don't know a whole lot about it. But
you were in the military. That was my last question. Did you ever personally witness a UFO?
So I never saw anything while I was flying that I didn't think I knew what it was. Like I could give you a scientific, or an ordinary explanation for it. A couple of the weird things that happened was this river of purple light was just streaming over the metal parts of the windows of a cargo plane. And I only saw it one time, never saw it again. But I assume it was something related to St. Elmo's fire, because we were in electrified clouds at the time. There was a lot of static on the radios and things like that. Then everything else is just routine. It's just aircraft, and you get turbulence out of nowhere, and you're like, what the heck was that? Well, you realize that you're all flying the same routes to go over the ocean, because there's like these little highways in the sky, and to keep it all orderly. And so if you've got a plane ahead of you and you're 4,000 feet below, then eventually that wake turbulence, which is like spinning, is going to eventually settle down onto you. And if the plane passes you, eventually you're going to go right through that wake turbulence. So there's ways to explain all this weird stuff that when you think about it, makes sense. So no, I have not seen anything that I couldn't explain.
A scale of 1 to 10, ethics-wise, Pentagon.
Oh. Why does it have to have 5 sides, first of all?
Ooh.
Don't even go there, right?
Why does it in a proper position in the earth to where it's an upside down pentagram?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe it's one of the biggest dens of corruption in the entire planet.
All right.
And I pray that there's still good guys in there.
There is. I don't know how Trump is or was working his way into there to get people fired or move them on, or it's pretty obvious that there's a world power structure that has got their tentacles around every government in the world, and that is what I was originally wanting to chat with you on and get your opinion on, because there's a lot of people looking at Trump as a savior. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people looking at some of the things he has said and done as questionable, and at the same time, gosh, he made so many moves that looked like they were for our nation, like no other president ever in the history of this nation. Mm-hmm. So that's the line of communication I'd like to take up with you. This is going to get published actually a week from today. So we are recording. So I think it's somewhere around the 1st of November. So if you don't mind, I'd like to have you back around the 7th of November for our second showing, and so we can finish that dialogue, because there's both levels. There's hope. There's a lot of people in disarray and wishing that the white hat theory is correct. And my question is could it be a massive sysop? Was Q a massive sysop? Is Trump infiltrated? Mm-hmm. Why did his ex-wife get thrown down the stairs, or did she truly fall and die? Was that to show a force over his family? I don't know. Those are all conspiracies, and they're really good, but that's how Washington, D.C. rolls. Yeah. That's how they play hardball with their politicians. They lock them into a permanent position of destitute. You either do what they say, or they kill you, or they kill your family, or they expose you. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. So if you'll
Kennedy family.
What's that?
Look at the Kennedy family.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
JFK, RFK, and all of their descendants.
Yeah, and
how many mysterious deaths, So it's
the drowning with Ted, and what kind of cover up with that was that? Yeah. How much controls did they have over him from that point forward? What kind of closing comments can you give me today?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have faith. I think God has his hand on all of this. And everything that we're seeing is his plan. It may feel hopeless. It may feel like things are out of control, that no one is helping us. But I have faith that it's going exactly the way it's supposed to for some reason that we may not understand. Personally, I think that Trump is intentionally doing some things wrong to keep people from making him into some sort of messiah, because he has to be very careful about that. I think he is not actually running what's happening behind the scenes. I think he's a part of it. He's a major part of it.
Who,
but
Biden?
No, Trump. Well, Biden because of Trump, but I think there is a large group of very intelligent retired military that's actually running all of this. And they know that they only have one chance of doing it right, which is why we're not getting any insider info squeaking out and spoiling the plan. Every once in a while, I get what I call breadcrumbs from folks that are connected to insiders, but without context or how am I supposed to interpret the breadcrumb? Of course, the hopium takes over and you go, oh, yay, it's finally happening. And it's like, no, nothing happened, you know? So it's just one little piece of something happening that's giving you that little piece of faith to know that something is happening behind the scenes. I have faith that if it's not the group of generals or the, you know, retired military or the special operators or whoever it is that's actually doing all these things for us, because we can't do it by ourselves. I don't think it's going to be the bloodiest battles ever recorded if we're ending up doing this ourselves, because
I agree.
We're not going to have time to take prisoners.
No.
If it ends up with we the people taking this whole thing
I
down.
have to say that, like, how big of the operation, how many people are involved in the operation, where are they conducting the operation from?
I would say there's a minimum of a third of our country is corrupt, and they're going to need to be imprisoned, punished, retrained, re-educated.
When you take a look at the amount of children that have been stolen from their families every year for the last 15, 20 years, the number adds up to 5 to 7 million. That is deplorable.
In the U.S. alone.
And what are they doing with them? It's disgusting. So one last thing I want you to kind of teeter on. We're going to get back together on the whole Trump concept. I want you to teeter on the concept that we're being ran by, could be demonic beings, could be reptilian, which in my opinion is demonic beings. Those are rumor mills that I've never made a public statement about. I just want you to do because you're a scientist, you're a thinker. It's got to make sense for you. You've got a good background. I'm doubting Thomas. I'm the guy that had to stick my fingers in Jesus's hole in his hand so I can believe. And so I'm a lot like you in that respect. And a lot of people have, construed I'm a conspiracy theorist. But all my friends today are always calling me, dude, what's up? What are we doing? What's going on? How you doing? What are you doing? I mean, what have you done? I mean, where are you getting this? How you doing? And they all believe me now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's neat to have somebody of your caliber on the show, and to basically coming forward with your truth as you know it. And I look forward to our next discussion, but let's hit those key points and just have some serious conversation about what ifs, could have, should have, what ifs, and let's let this play out. But I love the closing comments you just did with, I believe that, we're going to have divine intervention. I believe that with my whole heart. I do see a subdivision in this nation. I've always seen that. And I do see the good military coming forward and making an effort to re-inhabit this republic. And I see a great portion of this nation going with it. And I see the nation ultimately dividing. And then I think that's the moment where God's going to come. And so anyway, thank you for your time, Dr. Sandy. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next week to finish this dialogue up. And may God bless you and have a good day.
You too.
All righty. Goodbye.
Bye.